Welcome to today's episode of Veo Trailblazers. Today, we're very privileged to hear from 4 members of the Tennessee Soccer Club in the USA. They're going to speak about how they use video as an innovative way of teaching their players. Also, today we're going to hear from my colleague Tobias, Senior Machine Learning Researcher at Veo. Mate. Sweet kicks. Thanks. So as you heard, the coaches at Tennessee are using some really innovative ways of leveraging video as a teaching tool. So we're going to check out the interview and then it'd be good to get your reflections afterwards. Cool.
We could talk about our highest players in the world on the female or men's side, whether it's Pulisic or it's Weston McKennie or Alex Morgan or any player. We could talk about those players, but then we can talk about the highest players in our club and how did they get there? And being able to go back to a role of film over the course of their development career. If we have a player that's here in our club from the age of 5 and until they're 19 and they go off and do some amazing things or just go off to college, it'd be nice to be able to look back at their development process, and having that film in a database is going to be important to us.
So our players are becoming better students of the game. 1, because they're watching more soccer, because we get more soccer on television. 2, they have the ability to watch themselves play. And 3, they have better coaches.
If you look at comparisons around the world, the technical side of the game in America still needs to improve. From the grassroots levels. You know, obviously we can talk about the US team and how good they are technically and our pros at the MLS, but from a grassroots level, can we use technology to improve the technique of the game? And how do you improve technique? Through repetition. Well, you can only model good repetition by watching yourself and using video to help improve it. And so I think those are going to be the individual improvement is going to be where technology and video will really benefit the next generation.
Players love to see themselves play. They get fired up. It creates chemistry just to see that the lines are working together, the consolidation's working together, the units working together, our scheme is working. If I see an amazing goal or maybe a 15-pass combination, I'll send that to those 5 or 6 kids, and they immediately begin to get it out on social media, and they love it.
I absolutely love being able to paint a very vivid and real picture for my players. They can see themselves. You can talk through the moment, you can rewind the moment, you can revisit the moment, and you can reiterate the moment until they finally comprehend their actions, right? I'm a very visual learner, so I like to teach in a visual sense. And so for me, the video analysis is a great tool for me as a coach to help form my team, but it also is a great teaching mechanism for my players to be able to learn how to self-reflect and how to improve their game.
I've used it more on games, so being able to view the games and watch them back. I try and keep it on the focuses that we have in our in our curriculum, what we're focusing on that week and the following weeks, because we all know you can watch a game and take 100 things from it.
The video analysis and the clipping tool gives you an opportunity to clip according to the needs of your individual player, as well as your collective group. If you spend your whole time on the 11, you're not going to get results. I think it's really important that you clip all the players.
Video even brings out personalities. You can see things you might miss during a game, maybe shoulders dropping during a negative moment or shoulders raised during a positive moment.
We should probably video more training sessions and show players more of their body language. I think it's important for them to be able to see themselves because they don't always show up for training, but they always show up for the game. And they'll find out in college that they'll videotape training sessions, and it'll be a wide awakening for some of them.
We're also able to kind of tie in what we see with our principles of play. So we can find moments and then share that with coaches, with players. These are the things we want to see, and sometimes it's so much easier for us to paint that picture in a training environment. And also with Veo, we can put it on different angles. We can bring it up closer if we're just working in one specific third, or this, in the midfield areas, we can get much closer to the action and then share it with those players as well.
The players after a game when they receive a clip or they get to see the video, they're getting immediate feedback, and that immediate feedback is important to them. Unlike a test, for example, at school, where they might find out a day or two later how they did on a test, this immediate feedback is kind of a reward to them.
From an IQ standpoint, you always want to challenge your players and your coaches to think and ask them the question, what do you see? And rather than telling them what we see. And I think that's an important piece of learning. One thing that we've found is starting to work is when we put together highlight reels, when we put together moments in a game where we talk about things we're working on, it's really easy to tag those players that are in it. So I'm working on building out the back. I'll find a moment, I'll clip it, and I'll tag those players involved so that all of them can start the conversation between themselves, and it's just between me and those 4 or 5, however many players. I think the more we can give them the capability just to talk about it and realize that they can bring their own ideas to the table, and that's going to help not just individually, not just that unit, but then in the big team environment. I watched our 2006 girls, who I coached briefly last year, and they've been struggling for results, but they've been playing some decent stuff. And I was at a game in Indianapolis. It was freezing. It was just before Christmas. And this transition from deep into their midfield and coming out and scoring, I mean, I think it was 6 passes, ball in the back of the net. I haven't seen a youth goal like that, and I got chills right now talking about it. And I was just waiting for that film to come across my desk. To have that moment, that's the win that you need. And to be able to go back and say, look what you can do, man, that might be the only thing they need to kind of elevate and get past some of these other results.
I think something we're always working on with players, and especially young women, just what I coach, is their self-awareness and their ability to self-regulate. And their ability to process. I think women have a difficult time praising themselves and recognition of when something is positive. And if you can show that to them, I think their confidence will raise, and I think you get a better player.
Where do I see technology going in the future? I think it will continue to go to the individual, which can be dangerous because now every player becomes their own coach. And that's a dangerous thing because at the end of the day, players are players and coaches are coach. But there's also the value of being able to go learn and discover who you are as a player. So I think there's a value there. It's a slippery slope. But I think just the accessibility, I think that's where it's going to go. The more we can communicate in a quicker manner before that 17-year-old ends up on their Nintendo Switch or whatever, or on the next thing, I think it really is, the quicker we can do it, the better. The time is one of our challenges again. So I know for coaches, making the videos shorter, and I've had experience of watching games where the time is taken out between when the ball goes out, when goal kicks, things like that, and all of a sudden you watch a game in 40 to 50 minutes as opposed to 60 to 70, and that can be huge for a coach. Personally, I'd love to be on the sideline and have the video in front of me, so something happens in a game and a player on the side asks me a question, I can say, well, look here, this is, the stuff we're doing afterwards. We all want to be doing it on the moment because that's when it's fresh in everybody's memory.
What's your immediate personal reflections when you see this?
I really enjoyed watching that. It ticks a lot of boxes for me, that what we're doing in Veo and in the AI team, that those are the right things. We're making right assumptions, and this is how we want our users to use our products and features. So that's really cool.
What would you say is most enjoyable to see when coaches speak like this about using Veo and about using video?
I love the success stories, of course, about the team that had been struggling, and then all of a sudden that moment was there for them and they had it captured, and now they can keep coming back to it.
How do you see that relationship between technology and sport? Because it's really useful, but a lot of people can be quite scared of it.
I think we should all just accept that that's the direction it's going to go in, and I'm quite excited about that. I'm a sports fan and I'm a tech fan as well, so I don't have any problem with that, and I think there's huge potential in it. It's really cool to be in the field at this moment.
100%. But you've got kind of almost like a secret weapon. You've got an AI team that's full of pretty serious kind of football players. How does that impact your ability to make tech solutions when you know so much of the game intuitively?
Yeah, there are a few good players in the AI team, and I've just played a lot of football. I don't know how good I was, but I think it definitely helps us. Modern age AI is all about letting the models find the patterns and making up the rules, but you still have to provide the right relevant data for the models and on the right format, and that's where a lot of our understanding for football can come in and help us.
You know, we like to think we've got the best AI in the world. I don't know whether that's statistically correct or not, but we definitely have our own AI that's working really hard. We're not copying from anybody else. Just talk about that. What does it mean to have that kind of working methodology?
Yeah, so as you say, we have a very strong AI, probably the best in the world in terms of just being the camera operator. That's the first task we set out to automate, and we did it, and it's doing really well. It's just running day and night now, and all of a sudden everyone is taking for granted that Veo footage is perfect, and I just love that fact. We're of course following the latest machine learning research very closely, catching up on it every week and reading academic papers, and we can get a lot of inspiration from different fields. Autonomous driving, really, the boom there really helps us in what we're doing because a lot of money is invested in computer vision in general. But we have to tailor all of this to our specific needs. So that's where a lot of our effort and resources go.
What are some of the emergent themes around event detection that you're looking towards for the future? Don't give away any secrets, but just what's the exciting stuff?
So we're obviously always trying to make our current models even stronger. We collect more data and we retrain these models, and we see if we can push the performance even further from 90 to 95 to 99%. We want models that are as accurate as possible. That's one part in it. And then everyone would agree about what a free kick is and a corner. There were like 4 corners in the first half. But what about counterattacks and these soft events that are maybe even more valuable for the coach to have quick access to? How can we train models that understand what counterattacks are?
How do you see that playing out then? What would my search criteria be, for instance?
That's another area where we would like to stay in contact with the coaches and figure out even further how would they want to interact with this tool, and if we had our AI models being able to deliver the insights, how would they want to interact with them? But yeah, you can think of a million ways to do it, and maybe at some point in the future, it's just you talking to your assisting AI coach with natural language. I mean, let us dream big.
That would be amazing. So now we heard the coaches from Tennessee talk about that. They want their players to be equally involved in using video and understanding video as a form of learning. What's your thoughts on that, and what are we doing with that?
Yeah, I'm happy that you're bringing that up because I'm quite passionate about that. I think we could provide more value for the players. It's not easy enough right now to find your good actions in a match. What can we do about that? And on an AI level, how can we assist there? But also from a coaching perspective, maybe you have 2 right backs and you're considering how do they act in similar situations. Could you quickly and easily dig into that in your video collection? I think that would be great.
I'm imagining coaches watching this are kind of screaming at the screen for the feature that they would want the most. But what types of features have you heard back about that you think are going to be kind of possible in the next 2 to 5 years, for instance?
We do hear a lot about statistics. Coaches really want the stats in combination with the actual video content. That's where the potential is, and we try to keep that in mind as well and bridge this this gap between the two disciplines, and maybe you can start with the stats and see, okay, this looks interesting. I hadn't thought that I would have these stats in the match, but why is that, and how can I dig into that in the video content? It would be awesome to provide some value there.
One last question. If you had to say kind of what will be, and I know it's very hard, but what will become the biggest innovation that you think will take over the game of football in the next kind of 10 years, what do you think that might be? Just a fun one to end with.
I think we're going in the direction of perfection. When you look at teams such as Man City with Pep Guardiola, or Klopp in Liverpool, or even Arteta in Arsenal. I'm an Arsenal fan. They're really looking into the details now, and they also don't seem too afraid to try some crazy things out. I don't know how crazy it is now, but just using your goalkeeper the way these teams do, that's quite new. I think we'll see more innovative stuff on like the pro level, and of course that will inspire all the coaches and the teams on the levels below, and hopefully we can make that journey easier for them with Veo and the features we're providing.
That's really exciting if that's something we can take from elite down to grassroots.
Exactly.
Tobias, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time, and thanks for taking part in Trailblazers.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
you.